Hey guys, welcome back. So today I have a very flexible day and I decided to treat myself by starting it off in a very pleasant way before I have to get on to like stuff I don't want to do, like really boring admin work, and just visit with my cuttings that I've taken, the plants that I cut, or how are they doing, checking on my props, seeing what's ready to be like sold, gifted, traded. So it's gonna be very relaxed and casual, nothing crazy is gonna happen. This is definitely the kind of video where you can just play me in the background. You don't need to watch it like I will call you back to the screen if there's something amazing. I don't even know if there's gonna be something amazing to show you. I'm just gonna go through my plans and we will spend this time together. So one of my favorite parts of the day is opening my tent, and I haven't opened this for, I wanna say like 2-3 days. And I definitely wanna show you guys the plants that I cut last week because it was like a little nerve-wracking to be sure. So my Carla, after I cut it, I was telling you in that video, if you stay till the end, that the newest leaf was looking really soft. Like it was kind of soft to begin with because it wasn't fully hardened, but it was looking like liquid. And when I touched it, it was like that wet spinach feeling. I want to check to see how the roots are doing, but the newest leaf did perk up. Like you can see, there wasn't really any damage on the leaf. It didn't crisp up or anything. This plant is such a trooper, but it's definitely firmed up, like you can see. Ooh, some new root growth there. I can see another root right here. If you're ever really nervous about a plant when you're repotting it, I really encourage you to pot those root tips right at the edge of the pot because any sort of action, you'll be able to see it. I do see like older leaves starting to yellow. This one. But the latest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leaves seem fine. And the flower has continued to grow. I've just peeled back the sheath of the caterpillar so I can monitor if it starts to push out a leaf. And once the foliage growth starts to resume, that's when I can fully like relax. But it looks okay. The other plant that I chopped was my unknown Carla hybrid, the contaminated NSE Carla. Yeah, leaves look fine. The newest leaf was already hardened, so it looks fine as well. I can see new roots forming from the top, starting to poke down into the substrate. Anything happening down here? No, but it has started to push a leaf. So that one's doing good, thank God. Those are like my 2 favorite plants right now. That's a lie. All of my plants are my 2 favorite plants right now. The little offset that I took off that plant, I've been keeping it in water because the stem is so small. Do you see how small it is? I was a little bit scared to get this potted into substrate right away, so I've kept it in water just to see if this root will continue. And it has a little bit, but I think it's ready to get into substrate because this is pretty calloused. So I'm gonna put it into tree fern. It is thirsty. You can see how it's like a little bit curled. And typically I don't callus my cuttings. I used to callus all my cuttings. I would wrap the roots in like wet paper towel and I'll leave at least a few hours, sometimes overnight. In looking back, I think the callusing has done overall more damage to more cuttings than just potting it straight up without callusing at all. So I know some people who take cuttings and then just pot it straight up without callusing it. And I was like always scared to do it, but when I started to do it, I was seeing that like nothing bad was happening without callusing. It's so rare for a plant to get stem rot from going straight into soil from being cut that I feel like it's worth the time that I save by not like having to do all this stuff to like preserve the roots and like let the cuttings harden off. So yeah, I'm not saying like don't callus your cuttings, but try it with plants that you're maybe like not that fussed about getting a bit of rot, like you have a lot of stem to work with. If there is stem rot, then you can cut it back a little bit. Or if you have a plant that you took multiple cuttings of, so you have multiple to work with, maybe try not callusing it. Just dip your toes in. Don't definitely do it to all your plants if it's going to be like hard to recover from if they get rotten and like you can't monitor all these cuttings. But for me, callusing has definitely worked with my lazy soul, and I don't want to wait those few hours and leave a whole mess and not be able to like clean up my repot. So yeah, this one, after I finish filming, I'm gonna just pop this into tree fern. And I don't know if I want to get into 100% humidity. I think I'll get it back into my tent, but for now I'll just stick you back in the water. Oh, by the way, in the water, I'll show you how I have it. I have the water pretty low and the cutting is just sitting like this. So the root is in the water, but the stem is above the water. If it was like a much larger stem, I probably wouldn't even have it in water. The Spider Ralph man, I wasn't sure if it was gonna freak out, but it hasn't. Look at it. She looks pristine. Any root growth? Absolutely none that I can see. But it's obviously taking up water from the, I think I left a pretty small root system on it. It didn't have a big root system to begin with, but it looks fine. Like, it's super perky. I'm gonna just peel back the sheath to see if it started pushing a leaf yet. This caterpillar is definitely active. Okay, how are my inflows doing? I really want this to take. I cannot tell if anything's happening on this. This is my Carla BVEP that I put Carla pollen on. This one probably needs some water because it's kind of nearing dry, but it did push a leaf. So if I don't get berries, at least I got a leaf, I guess. The inflow doesn't look like it's dying, but let me take the bag off. The little individual flowers aren't turning color and they're not really protruding. So it's really hard to tell. I have heard that Carla spathes will turn green when they're successfully pollinated. So I don't know if that extends to Carla hybrids, but this spathe, it did take on a lot of Carla because it's got that like pink striation. It's white. It's not quite as big and capey as a Carla. It is slightly green. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up, but I really want this batch of berries to work. Today is CalMag day. I guess this week is CalMag week, so I'm going in with CalMag for my plants instead of the usual TPS one. I think that's good. How is my HU red crystal doing? Pretty good. It needs water. So I got these HU red crystals, I don't know, was it like a month ago? This was imported from Indonesia from Ambient plant. This one was one of two, and this is the one I'm gonna water right now. This is the one that looked a little bit softer and a little wrinklier after I made the cut, so I've been acclimating it in my tent. I do see roots. All of that is new. Little bit right here as well, but it's definitely rooted slower than the other one. And this one does not look like it's actively pushing a leaf. No, that caterpillar does not look active, but it definitely still looks like an import plant. Like, it looks a little bit thin and wrinkly, but now that it's rooting, the growth rate is gonna definitely speed up, and I'm really excited to see what the new leaf looks like. I'm hoping that it pushes a leaf that is at least the same size as this, but I want it to be like thicker, more of like a leathery texture, because this is so thin and pliable. It's not my favorite texture, and I know that this hybrid is capable of producing nicely textured, like velvety anthurium leaves. Okay, this is not like a repot update or anything. This is just an update I wanted to show. So I have this red crystal that has been giving me so much grief since I got it from Amanda, and she always says that it's been a little bit of just a fussy one, and it kind of just throws little like crispy fits all the time. Like, look at this. I already cut another leaf off because it was like in the way, it was pushing into other plants and it was so ugly. But I finally grew a leaf that didn't like crisp as much as the others, but it's already kind of showing a little bit of damage. You see a little bit of like orange here and a little bit here at the tip, but this is by far the best leaf I've been able to grow. I haven't really done anything different. I've just been like trying to CalMag it. I tried silica, but I kind of forgot about silica, so I feel like it's mostly CalMag. I inoculate this with great white, or like re-inoculate it a little bit more often than my other plants. I don't see like a ton of roots in here, but there's so much algae as well. But I don't think it's like ready for a repot per se. I've just been trying to feed it a little bit more with the CalMag type of thing. Well, this one's gonna definitely get more CalMag today. I'm gonna just throw in a photo of when the leaf was emerging and growing, and it was so purple and so beautiful, and I was staring at it all the time. And this is kind of like how it hardened off too, but it will keep these colors, like the red veins, that kind of like bluish, blackish tone. It will keep it for a long time. Like, this leaf has been fully hardened for months and you can still see the red in the veins. So if you've gone off to wash dishes or do laundry, just come back really quick and just appreciate that this plant has finally given me a pretty decent leaf. It's still a little bit cupped, but I think that's a characteristic of this plant. It always has like very like cuppy kind of leaf, but it's starting to look so much healthier than before. That's the previous leaf. This is the new leaf. I just want to check on this inflow. This is my Magnificum crystallinum crossed with Carla Blackier. This one was also pollinated with Carla Wu 1. And I don't think, I mean, I don't know. See, look, the Spadix has just gone like a one-toned, light, creamy, yellowy wheaty color. It doesn't look like it's protruding. I think the pollen production is pretty much done, but the spathe is really green, like much greener than my Carla Bebep one. I just don't know. I really can't tell. The peduncle is still looking healthy and green. It hasn't started yellowing here. But usually with failed pollinations, my spadix will start to turn color, like the deadly color, before the peduncle. But when you see the peduncle start to yellow, that's like a surefire sign it didn't take. This leaf has pretty much fully hardened now. If this is a successful pollination, I won't be repotting it. But if it didn't take, I will get it into a bigger pot, because this leaf is hard. It's not fully hardened. You can see it's a little bit floppy, but it's roughly the same size as the leaf before it. And I don't know if it's because it started flowering, but I can see there's like lots of roots in here. So it's not in like dire need of a repot, but I think with a bigger pot, it'll size up a little bit more dramatically. And I actually want this one to get really big. So those two infos are what I've been nervously checking as often as possible. That's the first thing I check when I open my tent. I should have showed you this earlier when I was showing you the other HG Red Crystal, but this one is the one that I've been acclimating in ambient conditions, so it just sits like right there, and it actually has rooted so much just out here. Usually things root much faster in my tent with warmth and humidity, but this one has been just trucking along without a care in the world. This one was also cut, and I'll show you the cuttings later. The new leaf has just pushed, and I'm just checking to see if I see spider mite damage, but right now I just see dried up mucilage. You see that like flaky, kind of snotty looking slime, like dried up snail slime. I don't see spider mites, and I have been pretty on top of my spider mite treatments, but it's not impossible that it has spider mites. I don't see damage though so far, so fingers crossed. But the newest leaf is looking really red. Like that's such a pretty berry tone color. I know this plant so far has not been a very red HG Red Crystal. I kind of doubt that it's going to develop that later, but it's nice to know that like freshly emergent leaves have a really nice berry tone, so you can at least enjoy it for a bit. It's not going to harden off with any sort of red. I think like this leaf with the slightly pink sinus, I think that's pretty much the extent it's going to be. But this one's so cute because it's so flecky. So many flecks everywhere, and it's kind of dark. And with this new leaf, I'll be able to see if it hardens off with a little bit more texture, because this one is also really, really thin and pliable. Okay, I have this bin of plants that I don't check on often, and they're pretty much all ready to graduate out of this bin. I just don't have space for it in my tent. It's like so freaking full in there. And even like in the ambient area, it's pretty full. And I've been getting rid of some pretty big plants in the last few weeks, and I definitely will this weekend, because at the shop there's going to be like a garage sale. If you're watching this video on the day it goes live, unless you watch it right when it goes live and then just like haul it to the shop and you live local, it's probably already over. But it's getting to the point where I'm like having to really make hard decisions, like plants I actually like, and then just like try to decide who I like more. So like case in point, I know we're just about to go through this bin, but case in point, I'm getting rid of this. My philodendron tortum. I'm gonna bring it to the shop. I'm gonna sell it in, like, this is going to be for locals only, because this cannot be shipped. It's too big. It's not worth the shipping money that you're gonna pay. But a lot of like my larger philodendrons, I think I wouldn't miss them if they were gone. Whereas with these ones here, I'm just like, I feel like I'm gonna regret it still. So anyways, I'm still working on getting rid of some plants, but I think what the plan is right now is I'm going to convert my Hoya cabinet, which I've shown here and there is downstairs. I'm going to convert that Millsbo cabinet to orchids and baby anthuriums. It's not really a long-term solution for the anthuriums because they will outgrow that cabinet pretty quickly, but I think I don't need a cabinet dedicated to Hoyas anymore. So that's going to be where a lot of these things go. So a lot of these are from Cartel Down, and I have a couple of, Alocasias. They're growing so cute. This is Alocasia oh my gosh. Okay, so this is Alocasia tanderusa or Jacqueline. It's grown 2 leaves in my care in 100% humidity. I have it in pretty low light, so it's like sitting next to a shelf that has Barina lights on it. Cause kind of like this, where it has a shelf with a light, and then over to the side is a bin, and it gets some sunlight in the afternoon, but it's mostly like low light, and the leaves aren't really like bleaching. I feel like these are like really bleachy Alocasias. This is the newest leaf. It's more jaggedy but smaller. The roots are looking fantastic. This is stratum, and I just kind of topped it up with perlite and stratum because it was getting a little bit like wobbly. Here's the second one. By the way, I got these from my friend Dania. It's also grown 2 leaves. This is the second one. Isn't that so cute? I don't know what I'm gonna do with it because I think it will throw an absolute fit. Once I move it out of this bin, I know it can grow in ambient conditions, but I think this alocasia going from 100% humidity to ambient will not be a good time. So if you have that experience, let me know what you've done with your Jacquelines, but right now it's just gonna live in this bin. Everything else in here I think can be moved out. So this cartel shipment, I started acclimating them in ambient conditions in water, which I feel like anthuriums are so tough for acclimation. They're like some of the easiest airways to acclimate in my opinion. I find that I don't have to put them into like a temporary rooting substrate. I can get them straight into like my final destination substrate, like pond if I wanted to do it in pond, or tree fern soil if I did do tree fern soil, but I don't need to do like an intermediate step of like just perlite or like just moss. So these ones I had in water. I can't remember how long it was, but I think it was a couple of days, like 2 to 3 days before actually potting it up. It might have been longer than that. Honestly, I'd have to check back that footage of that video to see, but a lot of the plants got a little sad. So they ended up in this bin. Only one of them graduated out into my tent. This one is Dark Phoenix Goliath. So this is the only leaf that I've grown in my care. And I'm surprised at how light green it is. It's still a fresh leaf, so it hasn't hardened off yet. And I'll see how it hardens off because it doesn't get a lot of light in here. So in theory, it should be darker. It might just be that the roots haven't fully developed yet, but there's a lot of like fuzzy roots. Where is it? There's like a nice long one here. Maybe it was just a little bit starved for nitrogen in that time. Who knows? But with those 2 parents, Dark Phoenix and Goliath, both very, very dark, I expect this to darken up. But this new leaf is really cute. Like, look how pillowy and round it is. It looks so much like my Dark Phoenix self that I got from Jing, like her seedling. This is my Dark Phoenix self from Jing, and then Dark Phoenix Goliath from Cartel. My Jing Dark Phoenix has done pretty well in tree fern soil. It has like rooted out quite a bit, except that all the stem is above the substrate now. So I feel like I have to either repot it deeper or get, I don't know. I don't really want to get it into like the 5-inch pot yet. It seems a little bit ridiculous, but it also has stopped sizing up so much. This is the newest leaf. It's still soft, but I don't think it's going to get way bigger than this. So the last 3 leaves have been very similar in size, but it's very cute and it's looking very Dark Phoenix-y. Like this looks like what my Dark Phoenix looked like when it was a baby. There's like 3 more plants in here. This one, it definitely has the 100% humidity roots. They're just growing everywhere. They come out from the pot and just grow in the air because there's so much moisture. This one is Bigfoot Goliath. It has grown 2 leaves. This is the first leaf that I grew. It's definitely darker than the import leaves and a lot bluer. This is the newest leaf that it just put out. Looks like a little bit of like, who knows if it's fungal or just like edema related damage, but right here. This one is like a crystallinum hybrid crossed with HU red crystal, which I thought it was a Bigfoot self or something because of the venation, and I still kind of do because I don't see HU red crystal in this yet, but it's still so small. But this is I want to say it's the second leaf I grew. This one was the first leaf, so it's darker, and then this is the newest leaf that is still soft and it's still expanding, and it's a little bit of a size up, but you can see it's kind of leggy because it doesn't get very much light. This one is Minahasa crossed with Blue Pap, and I definitely see the Minahasa in it. This is the first leaf I grew. Do you see how feathery that venation is? It's definitely not very clean. It's very like jaggedy on the edges. This one hasn't actually rooted as much as the other ones, surprisingly. Like there's only like this and this. Anyways, gave you guys some fresh air. Just air you out a little bit and you're gonna go back in your spot. Okay, let's look at my propagation domes because I want to see how those are doing and whether any of them are ready for sale. Okay, so these are a lot of the cuttings that I took last week. Like all the stuff in the square pots, basically. I want to see what has woken up. Ooh, this is RA5 Swamp Bunny. I did this off camera. It looks like it's rotting on top and it's not. It's just a dead sheath. So this would just peel right off. This has activated, right? I hate it when anthuriums do this where they activate the node right there as if to tell you like, you cut it really close, dude. And this one's just like a tiny cutting. So I'm glad this one did make it because that would have been like a waste of a cut. My Diabloens is finally pushing leaves. This has been like the slowest prop of all time. I think I cut this like, I don't know, in the winter time. It's been a really, really long time. And it's finally pushed a new leaf here, a new leaf here. And over here, there's another growth point that looks active. Actually, I feel like this is 2 separate growth points. Will it focus? Hello? Yeah, doesn't that look like 2 growth points? A little dark phoenix Ralph Lynam Fort Sherman cutting I took. That's from my cartel plant, my last year one that I love so much. I'm gonna wait for this one to get a little bit bigger and I'll bring it to the shop to sell. Okay, so this one is that contaminated Carla. Is there anything happening? I don't see anything waking up just yet. But the other one, this one's also from the same plant. This one has activated. My camera has no idea what to focus on. Focus on the growth point. There. See that little pink growth point? Spider Ralph, man. These growth points were already somewhat active when I cut it. So I don't know that it's actually done anything in this time. It has been precisely 1 week since I chopped it. So really not much happening here. The other Spider Ralph, man, this growth point started turning brown at the tip. I don't know if it's going to push something else from that. It might. This freaking tiny, tiny Carla stem cutting that I took, I don't see any action on it yet, but I don't see decline either. I didn't really expect to find anything. It was more like, will I be really pleasantly surprised? But it looks like it's exactly what I expected, which is nothing's happening right now. Same thing with this Carla Lux. I don't see anything active at the moment. Oh, my little Carla babies are in here. Might as well show you. This is Carla RA8 self from Buzz Plants. Let's just push this leaf. It's really hard to show you because it's bending towards the light, but that's what it looks like now. It's still potted in this little parfait cup. So once that leaf hardens off, I think I'm gonna get it into this size, this square pot here. And my Carla 116 from Rory via Lauderdale Aroid House. Not a lot of root action, but it has pushed a leaf. This is the only leaf I've grown. I feel like this one's a little bit slower than the RA8, but it's bigger for sure. I definitely think these two will be on the slower side. Down here, I just have some like Hoya props, philodendron props. These are Alocasia corms. These two are Maharani. This little Florida beauty is ready for sale. These are my last remaining props of this plant before I am Florida beautyless. But this one has such great variegation. This is the newest leaf. It's so marbly. So this one's ready for sale. And let's see what's happening in this dome. Okay, so these 3 cups here, I used to have a beautiful Alocasia watsoniana. I got it from my friend Erin. She grew it really big, and then it got a little bit sad because she was like neglecting it, so she gave it to me, and then I grew it and it was beautiful. I was living in my tent, and then it just like crashed. And for the longest time it was a stump and it was not putting out any foliage, and I was like, when it's warm, it's summertime, maybe it'll do something. But then I unpotted it and it was rotting like from the stem. There was like it was like a big log, right? Like a really long log, maybe like this long. But there was like a section of it that was rotting. So I just basically chopped it up into pieces. I've never done alocasia by cutting before, but I know it can be done. These are just the pieces of stem that I just put into a mixture of stratum and perlite, and I put it into this dome with a lot of light because it was getting way less light before. But this is literally like the last resort because it would have continued rotting without cutting it up. This is the top, and I can see that this is squishy. This is dying, so I might have to chop it down here again. There's a little bit more stem underneath it here, but I love that alocasia. It's really hard to find one that's like velvety. These are my little HU red crystals. So this one, I numbered number 6. So this one's the one that I had growing in my tent. I think my preferred one of the two. It has 2 baby leaves that just emerged. These ones woke up so well, like a dream. This one is that second one that I showed you that was growing in Ambient. And look how veiny these tiny little baby leaves are. It's like somebody took a larger leaf and just shrunk it down. So cute. A few videos ago, I chopped up my Queen of Hearts. So that's one cutting. It has woken up. There's actually 3 growth points on here. So this one with the leaf, I don't know if the camera will focus, but one here and one here. These actually need a bit of water. This one hasn't pushed a leaf yet, but has 1 growth point. This one is higher up on the stem, so I think the new leaf will be a little bit bigger. Just need to water a couple of these guys. Look at this Wendlingeri prop. I took this so long ago of my Wendlingeri, the really waxy one. This is the first leaf, but look at this mossy scape. This always happens in my domes. I don't know if it's from the soil or the tree fern. But I love the little green meadows that grow. It's so cute. But this has been such a slow one. I took that cutting with no leaves whatsoever, so that one took way longer than the ones with leaves. This one is also a Wenli. This one is NSC Wendlingeri from my friend Owen. It's pushed out a few leaves in my care because it was just a stump with a growth point. This is the newest leaf and it's sizing up and it's going to be ready to move out of here soon. I want to check on my little seedlings. So these ones are PAP RA5 crossed with Fort Sherman Ralphinum. And this batch I split with Charmaine and it has been great in terms of germination rate, because you see everything in here has germinated. The slowest one is this one, but it has germinated. You can see the root coming out. It just hasn't put out a leaf yet. The second dome I have is ones that I harvested later, so these are a little bit farther behind, but they're starting to push their first leaves. This one right here was the last berry. I didn't even think there would be a seed in there, and the seed that ended up being inside was tiny. Like compared to the other ones, it's probably like half the size of the other seeds. And there was a couple berries that I harvested right at the end, like the very, very last stragglers on the infructescence, and they were empty. So I really didn't think that this was going to do anything, but it's starting to germinate. There's a little root poking out. Not to say that there's not going to be any like struggling runty ones in this batch, but so far everything has germinated, which is such a treat. These ones are Anthurium Brielle crossed with Black Crystallinum. The germination rate on this wasn't as good. I think I was probably like a 60% germination rate, something like that. And there's definitely a couple in here that are pretty runty. Like I don't even know if this one is going to survive. This one looks like it's trying, but I'm not going to just like throw it away just yet. And then this one was very, very slow in germinating. It's only just pushed out its first leaf. Whereas some of these, like this one's working on its third leaf. This is the second leaf, and then it's got one emerging right here. But I'm really excited to see how much silver is showing up even on like the second leaf. So this is the second leaf, and there's like quite a bit of silver. I mean, obviously the hope was to get very, very silvery yet dark anthuriums. So I do want to grow this out more before selling any, because I just want to see what they look like, because I have no idea. And there were so few from that batch that germinated. But a little update on my black crystal. When the emergent leaf came out, it was so round. And I really hope that it would stay that round, but it has kind of elongated a little bit. It is on the round side. It's just not like round in your face, but it is very cute. It's still a little soft, so it does have some darkening off to do, and I hope that it gets super black under the Soltech lights. Okay, lastly, I just want to do some updates on some plants that I got off Palm Street. I think this was like more than a month ago. I ordered a bunch of plants and it was shipped across border. We went and picked it up, and I did an unboxing on camera. One of these plants was a Hupersia carinata soy sun from Woohoo Tropicals. And I was so nervous for this because I had never owned a Hupersia before. And I've heard horror stories about how finicky they are, how much humidity they need, how they never grow. So I followed Paulina's advice, Paulina from Woohoo, which basically was like never let it dry out. So I planted it in tree fern soil. The roots on these were so fine. I don't think that it's the type of roots that I'll be able to see on the outside of the pot, but I didn't want to grow it like hanging upside down. You know how like some people will grow Hupersia in a pot with a hole at the bottom and the Hupersia is coming out the bottom, and so when you water it comes out the drainage hole and just kind of like rains down on the plant. I was searching on Instagram for this plant specifically, and I don't remember which account it was, but basically they were saying that they've been growing this for like a few years, and they originally had it hanging growing upside down, and that was like too annoying to do, so they just started growing it like this, trailing outside of a pot, and it's been so much easier. And she's been growing it in ambient conditions. I'm not ready to grow it in ambient conditions yet. I'm still a little bit nervous about it, but it's growing inside this exo here, which is not like super high humidity because it's not sealed for enclosing in the humidity, but it luckily has been doing okay. Like the newer growth here has continued to grow. This little growth point here that used to be like right, almost like flush to the soil, it has come out a little bit. And you can see on the ends of here, it's starting to fork. So it is growing. I did let it get dangerously dry. I won't say it was like 100% dry, but it was nearly there. It was to the point where it's getting light and it was almost falling over. So that was a really close call. I don't know if that's what caused these like slightly brown tips. It very well might have been, but so far so good. It's still doing okay. I'm starting to feel a little bit more confident in getting more Hupersia, but they're very expensive because I think they're very hard to propagate. You can't just cut this up into a million pieces, throw them in moss, and they all grow. There's only very specific parts of the plant that will continue growing. And also I think they're very slow to root and then resume growing. So it's kind of a long-term process. I don't think that these are the type of things that are either easily TC'd or that companies are even trying to TC them. So I don't know if I ever plan on chopping this. It would be nice to get a really nice full pot, but I think I need like a year of growing it under my belt before I get the confidence, or it has to grow so big that I have no choice but to cut it back because it's like too large, which I don't see that being a problem because I'm not confident that I have the ability to grow it so big and it's gonna thrive and get humongous. I don't see that happening, but so far so good. Tree fern soil, it doesn't hate it. It obviously doesn't hate it. It's getting pretty high light because it's not, actually no, I wouldn't say highlight, but pretty good light. It has 2 Barina bars above it, which are 10 watts, like the Barina T5. So some light. It's not getting blasted with light, but it's not low light by any means. So this one is doing really good. I'm so relieved. I won't show you the anthuriums I got in that shipment because I've already shown you that. These 2 I haven't shown you since that video. This is Phalaenopsis schilleriana. The silver leaf kind, it says. So this one is planted in tree fern fiber amended with some pon and perlite, but the vast majority of it is tree fern fiber. Because in my mind, if this Phalaenopsis could grow in moss, which it was growing in moss, then for sure it can grow in tree fern fiber, because tree fern fiber, especially like my bag was really twiggy and I've amended it, it's definitely more aerated than moss. I always thought of it as like an old school orchid substrate and only became popular with the anthurium hobby when the anthurium hobby took off. But anyway, it has rooted like this humongous root in the tree fern. I let it get completely dry before watering it. So I watered this like maybe yesterday, 2 days ago, but it dries out really fast because it's under these lights. The room in general is quite warm. Things are evaporating pretty quickly. And it has been growing this leaf really, really slowly, but I'm here to tell you that the roots didn't all freak out and rot and die in tree fern fiber. So now I'm thinking I'm gonna just grow it in this for the foreseeable future until I feel like maybe it's like a little bit too root bound. I don't know. I think I'm just gonna leave it as it is for now until I learn more about orchids. I don't know that Phalaenopsis should have rooted way more in this time or like grown way more in this time. It's probably been like 5 or 6 weeks. That's just a guess. Like 5 or 6 weeks ballpark. So I don't know if that's like abnormally slow growth rate, but it's obviously not hating this substrate. My goal this year was to, well, I've always wanted to join the Vancouver Orchid Society. The guy who runs it is Eugene. He does the Ecuador pop-ups here and he's like just a living, breathing angel. He's so adorable. And I always wanted to go because whenever he talks about orchids, it's just like very captivating. Like I just really like listening to him talk about orchids. I really want to learn about how the different types of orchids grow and their conditions that they need, where they actually come from in terms of elevation, what the kind of light they need. There's just so much to learn. I also know that there are certain species of orchids that like have a like almost obligatory relationship with mycorrhizal fungi and they cannot survive without myco. There's like stuff like that that I only scratched the very, very bare surface of, but in terms of this one, I am of the mind that like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm not gonna repot it. I'm just gonna keep it like this. So the orchid bug is still there. It's still on my to-do list. I'm just trying to take it a little bit slower and try not to overwhelm myself, because if anthuriums are overwhelming, I feel like orchids could potentially be even more overwhelming. But anyway, like I said, this one just grows here. I've still been enjoying it a lot. I can't wait for it to flower. I don't think it's gonna flower this year. For sure it's not gonna flower this year, but maybe it'll flower next year. I wanna go to the next Ecuador pop-up and get more orchids. I don't know when that is. There should probably be another one this summer. And I think my goal is to get like 2 more orchids, get into my cabinet that used to be a Hoya cabinet, but is now going to be converted into orchid / anthurium cabinet. And on Discord, we've opened up an orchid channel to talk about orchids, and I'll just try to like absorb as much information as possible for what different type of orchids need. Anyways, my happy little plant visiting time has come to an end. Sorry if this video is a bit on the shorter side. I just have a lot on my plate right now, but I definitely didn't want to miss an upload. So I hope you enjoyed this very casual, simple video. I hope you've been having a lovely, restful, peaceful weekend. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah!